Hello, and welcome to Dreamy Tales, a sanctuary where everyone can experience calm and a touch of magic before gently drifting into sleep. Tonight, we invite you on another enchanting journey, a story that helps soothe the mind and nurture a sense of peace. Before we begin, let's take a moment to prepare our bodies and minds for a comforting, restorative rest. Make yourself cozy, and with each slow inhale and long exhale, let the cares of the day gradually slip away. It's not always easy to step back from the day's demands, especially as night falls. Yet, remember, the less we worry about how quickly we'll fall asleep, the simpler it is for our minds to release any remaining tension. Allow the gentle flow of your breathing to wash away lingering concerns, and let the story ahead guide you into a state of deep relaxation. Now, settle in, and let the dreamy atmosphere softly wrap around you. Enjoy this story, and may you drift into a peaceful, restful slumber here on Dreamy Tales. Years beyond reckoning, nestled where a broad, meandering river described its languid curves, lay the resplendent metropolis of Viridia. Crown jewel of the kingdom it was, primarily because the royal lineage graced it with their presence, dwelling within a palace of breathtaking beauty. The river, a silver artery, pulsed with commerce, its port a natural nexus sending forth and welcoming vessels laden with goods. These cargoes journeyed far, reaching coastal towns and the world beyond the horizon. Viridia's renown for trade, coupled with its strategic perch upon this vital waterway, fostered a vibrant prosperity, a city thrumming with life. Merchants, diverse in their wares, thrived, erecting stately residences along both banks. Graceful bridges arched across the water, seeming almost buoyant. Ethereal links connecting the lives on the left bank to those on the right. Even artisans of humbler station found fortune in the city's robust pulse. Horseshoes needed forging, tools required crafting, and curious potions awaited mixing. The adage held true: a rising tide lifts all boats, and the citizens of this fortunate realm floated comfortably upon its crest. The sovereign, King Valerius, possessed a genial and celebratory nature. Indeed, some whispered he bordered on the frivolous. His sole heir was the Princess Anya, a figure of widespread admiration. Hopeful aspirants from neighboring realms converged upon the palace, bearing opulent offerings, each dreaming of securing her hand. The throne room became a treasure trove, heaped high with glittering jewels, fragrant soaps, ingenious clockwork music boxes, and chests brimming with exotic teas and spices. Suitor after suitor attempted to eclipse the last with demonstrations of affection. Yet their challenge extended beyond mere rivalry. It transpired that Princess Anya, alongside her radiant beauty and determined spirit, was endowed with a formidable intellect. Consequently, matrimony was not a state she pursued with any haste. As the singular inheritor of the throne, her life had been dedicated to studies of her choosing, ancient texts pored over, languages mastered, history and music absorbed. The princess maintained exacting standards for any prospective consort, and none among the hopefuls could sustain a conversation that matched her intellectual stride. One by one, they faced rejection. As for King Valerius, he felt no urgency for her nuptials. He was frequently preoccupied, immersing himself in the pleasures of existence and the diversions of the court, rarely troubling himself to protest her decisions. The king owned a magnificent white steed, and among his cherished diversions were extended rides through the surrounding woodlands. One afternoon, whilst enjoying a spirited canter among the trees, his loyal mount shied violently at the sudden appearance of a cunning fox. The horse reared, dislodging the king from his saddle. Though largely unharmed, his foot became ensnared in the stirrup during the fall. Days of convalescence followed, court healers applying countless poultices. Yet his foot never truly recovered its former ease. Walking, alas, became a source of persistent discomfort. A shadow fell over him at the thought that life's simple joys might forever be diminished. Some time later, a suitor arrived before the princess, presenting a gift of true wonder. A pair of silken slippers, soft as down and tinted the most delicate shade of rose. These slippers, the suitor claimed, would permit her to dance from dusk till dawn and beyond, utterly impervious to the fatigue of weary feet. Anya regarded this assertion with skepticism. Yet, embracing a spirit of empirical inquiry, she donned the slippers for a glittering ball, hosted by a city merchant the following evening. To her astonishment, the promise held true. She danced without pause at the opulent affair, through the night and into the subsequent day, ceasing only when sheer exhaustion overtook her body. Miraculously, her feet felt as refreshed after the final measure as they had before the first. Intrigued by their provenance, she questioned the suitor. He revealed they had been acquired at great expense from a renowned itinerant artisan cordwainer who had journeyed through his lands. An idea sparked within Anya. Could such footwear be fashioned for her father? If similar curative artistry could be applied to the king's affliction, perhaps, she dared to hope, he might walk with joy once more. She dispatched one of the king's swiftest and most trusted servants to locate the elusive craftsman, promising extravagant recompense should he deliver this miraculous solution. Weeks stretched into an anxious expanse, her father remaining largely confined to his chambers. An unhappy king cast a pall over the city. Festivities ceased, celebrations dwindled. Without their monarch orchestrating the accustomed revelries, the entire populace found existence markedly less vibrant. At long last, the servant returned, the celebrated cordwainer in tow. A flutter of anticipation rippled through the court. Word spread that their guest carried with him a shoe, purported to banish the king's discomfort entirely, to be presented in the throne room on the morrow. Naturally, the cordwainer was afforded the palace's most luxurious guest suite. He took possession of his chamber with considerable ceremony, instructing footmen to place a distinctive, ornately carved wooden chest at the foot of his bed. All eyes lingered on that chest, for within it, everyone surmised, lay the king's promised salvation. Among the palace staff was a young man named Liam. His duties involved tending the fireplaces and maintaining tidiness throughout the rooms. Liam was strikingly handsome and possessed a keen mind, having been raised by his uncle, proprietor of a local bookshop. This upbringing had steeped him in reading, though circumstance left him penniless. Securing employment at the palace represented his most viable path to solvency. Thus, he cleaned diligently, day after day, without murmur. Liam entered the esteemed cordwainer's chamber after the man had descended for his evening meal. He built up the fire, his gaze sweeping the room for anything amiss. It settled upon the intricately carved wooden box. Like everyone else, he sensed its significance and found himself unable to resist a fleeting glimpse inside. His fingers traced the beautiful carvings before he cautiously lifted the heavy metal latch. Peering within, he beheld a large slipper of pristine white silk nestled upon purple velvet. He refrained from touching it, wary of smudging the immaculate fabric with soot. Never had he witnessed footwear so exquisite. As he admired it, a sound echoed from the corridor, the cordwainer returning. Swiftly, Liam closed the chest's lid and slid beneath the bed, concealed by the hanging dust ruffle. The cordwainer entered, and Liam heard the clink of items being placed upon a nearby table. Pressing his cheek to the cool floor, he could just discern the man setting out a small jar and a soft brush. The man then approached the wooden chest, perilously close to Liam's hiding place, but seemed utterly oblivious to his presence. Instead, he retrieved the beautiful white slipper. Carrying it back to the table, he proceeded to lightly brush the slipper's interior with a powdery substance from the jar. It shimmered momentarily in the firelight. He tapped the brush thrice against the jar, resealed it, and carefully put away his materials and the slipper. His task complete, humming contentedly, the cordwainer donned a velvet cloak and departed the chamber once more. Certain the man was gone, Liam emerged from his refuge. The table stood empty. The chest remained securely fastened. Unwilling to risk discovery, Liam quit the room and resumed his duties. Yet as he worked, the image of the slipper and the mysterious glittering powder occupied his thoughts. What purpose had it served? Liam was absent from the throne room the next day during the grand presentation, but news traveled swiftly through the servant grapevine. The shoe, gossip confirmed, was a triumph. The king's pain had reportedly vanished the instant the slipper touched his foot. His former ebullient self was already re-emerging. Indeed, he was said to be strolling the gardens with members of the court, and plans for a lavish ball were already underway. The cordwainer, richly rewarded with gold, had departed to fulfill commissions in distant lands. A wave of collective relief washed over Viridia. Life, it seemed, would return to its familiar, joyful rhythm. King Valerius plunged back into life with renewed gusto, soon dedicating his energies to organizing a grand regatta upon the river, an event for all citizens to enjoy. The day was declared a holiday, promising games, races, and, naturally, Abundant feasting. A royal barge was prepared, a floating platform large enough for dancing, where the king and his court would observe the boat races. Speculation buzzed about who would earn the privilege of joining the royal party. The holiday dawned under sparkling sunshine. The river teemed with small boats adorned with colorful pennants, its clear surface glittering as if strewn with jewels. Music and the tantalizing aroma of food filled the air across the city. Aboard the barge, the king and his retinue made merry, dancing, feasting, and laughing throughout the day. Then the unexpected occurred. Leaning over the barge's railing to converse with someone in a neighboring boat, the king lost his footing, teetering precariously close to the water's edge. Quick hands steadied him, but in the brief commotion, his cherished white slipper slipped from his foot. It landed in the river, bobbed momentarily, then vanished beneath the surface. A cry arose. All who could swim were urged to dive after the lost treasure. Occupants of nearby boats leaned low, trailing hands through the water. Many plunged directly into the river, searching frantically. But despite all efforts, the slipper remained lost. Almost immediately, the king began to complain of returning discomfort, declaring he could no longer bear weight on his foot. He was carried home, utterly disconsolate. In the days that followed, the river became a hive of activity. The king pledged a handsome reward for the slipper's return. Soon, news spread to adjacent kingdoms, attracting fortune hunters eager to claim the prize. They scoured the riverbed, sifted through mud along the banks, and cast nets from boats, endlessly searching the same channels. Anya observed their repeated failures, watched her father sink deeper into despair each day. One morning, her resolve hardened. She made a proclamation. In addition to her father's reward, she would bestow her hand in marriage upon whoever succeeded in this daunting quest. Privately, unlike her father, Anya held little hope of the slipper ever being recovered. The river was deep, its currents having claimed far greater things than footwear. Her secret hope, however, lay elsewhere, that perhaps someone possessing greater ingenuity, someone worthy of her love and respect, might devise a more effective solution to her father's malady. Liam, like every other soul in the kingdom, heard Princess Anya's declaration. Though merely a servant, he was utterly captivated by her dazzling wit as much as her beauty. He recalled his uncle's bookshop, specifically a shelf dedicated to volumes on science and alchemy. He had devoured those books in his youth, captivated by the mysteries they unveiled. While ignorant of enchanted footwear, the memory of the cordwainer secretly dusting the king's slipper with powder remained vivid. Logic dictated that the powder, not the slipper itself, was the source of the pain relief. Liam resolved to seek the origin of this powdered remedy, rather than join the futile search for the lost shoe. His pursuit became tireless, while the riverbanks thronged with fortune hunters diving and dredging. Liam dedicated his scant free time to his uncle's bookshop. It was a sanctuary, piled high with tomes of every description. Cookbooks jostled against worn histories. Classical texts in myriad languages lay beside stacks of novels and storybooks. Poetry collections leaned precariously. Here and there, a cozy, worn armchair nestled in a quiet corner invited hours of immersive reading. Liam spent every available moment exploring the nooks and crannies of his uncle's little shop. When time forbade lingering, he borrowed books on alchemy and herbalism, carrying them back to the palace to study furtively. One day, buried within a dusty treatise on herbal lore, he found his answer. It described a particular plant, native to a specific region on the plains of a nearby kingdom. Its pollen, renowned for alleviating pain, required harvesting by moonlight and resisted dilution or dissolution. It had to be applied in its pure, powdery state. Consulting the maps available to him, Liam estimated the journey to this location would take approximately a week on horseback. A horse, however, was a luxury neither he nor his uncle possessed. Anyone he knew fortunate enough to own such an animal could scarcely spare it for weeks on end. Liam understood that reaching this miraculous plant was his sole prospect for resolving the king's plight, and perhaps, just perhaps, winning Anya's hand. Risking everything, he determined to petition the king directly at the next public audience. Later that week, he joined the queue of citizens waiting outside the king's chambers. These audiences were notoriously lengthy and taxing, the king's patience often fraying as the day wore on. Unfortunately for Liam, he found himself near the end of the line. After many hours, with only a few petitioners remaining, Liam stood before the throne. The king gestured impatiently, indicating he should speak quickly. "Your Highness," Liam began, his voice steady despite his pounding heart. "I believe I may have discovered a means to cure your ailment, but I shall require the loan of a horse." Gasps rippled through the assembled courtiers. The audacity of a servant boy requesting a royal steed, let alone claiming he could succeed where all others had failed, was preposterous. Sensing his window closing, Liam pressed on. "There is a flower," he explained, "that grows in a particular place. I know its location, but reaching it on foot would take a month. If your Highness could but lend me a horse, I could return within 2 weeks and relieve your suffering." Murmurs and stifled laughter arose from the nobles. The king shifted in his seat. Liam braced for dismissal, but the king's response startled everyone. "Give this boy a horse and send him on his way," he declared, to the astonishment of all present. "If he can achieve what all of you could not, it will be worth the wager." With a theatrical wave, he dismissed Liam and instructed the remaining audience to depart as well. Princess Anya, seated nearby throughout this extraordinary exchange, felt a surge of intrigue. This young man's sensible, alternative approach commanded her immediate respect. She admired cleverness and his courage in presenting such a bold request before the king was undeniable. Though wary of false hope, the princess secretly wished Liam success in his improbable quest. Meanwhile, Liam hastened his preparations. News of his audience spread like wildfire. Soon, every servant in the palace whispered about his venture. His fellow staff rallied around him. The palace cook packed generous provisions. The grooms offered one of the finest horses from the royal stables. All eyes were now fixed upon Liam. He departed the following day, equipped with food, water, the herbalist's guide, and a map procured from his uncle. The older man held immense faith in his nephew, trusting Liam's diligence and bravery would lead him to the cure. Before long, Liam had journeyed farther beyond Viridia's limits than ever before. He crossed the familiar placid river, traversed dense forests, navigated a windswept mountain pass, and finally emerged onto the vast grassy plains beyond. He rode relentlessly, pausing only for essential rest. When endless expanses of waving wildflowers eventually unfurled before him, he knew he had arrived. Retrieving the precious herbalist book from his saddlebag, he allowed his horse to graze while he slowly circled the area, comparing the flora to the illustration clutched in his hand. It consumed the better part of the day. As the sun dipped towards the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, he stumbled upon a large cluster of white flowers, perfectly matching the book's description. His treasure was found. He sat amongst the grasses, contentedly consuming some of his provisions, awaiting nightfall. According to the text, darkness would coax the blossoms open, revealing their potent gift. He drifted into slumber beneath the twilight's fading embers. The hoot of a night owl roused him some time later. He sat up in the cool darkness, rubbing sleep from his eyes. There, luminous in the moonlight, stretched a sea of open blooms. Taking his jar, just as the book instructed, he gently tapped each open flower, coaxing its glittering pollen into the container. Patiently, methodically, he moved from cluster to cluster until the jar was completely full. He secured the cap tightly and stowed the jar safely in his saddlebag. As dawn broke, Liam was already urging his horse homeward. Yet, a nagging question persisted. What if the powder failed? Everything hinged on his faith in this ancient remedy. Back through the windy mountain pass he rode, back through the dense forest. Within a week, the familiar spires of Viridia rose on the horizon. He crossed the soaring bridge, his heart a mixture of excitement and trepidation. His return to the stable yard caused considerable stir among the staff. Servants gathered, eager for news. Had he found it? What was the journey like? Would the cure truly work? Liam offered polite but evasive answers, stating he could reveal nothing definitive just yet. He carefully withdrew the precious jar from his baggage, tucking it securely into his coat pocket. As the crowd dispersed, he bowed to one of the lady's maids, requesting a small favor. "Might I borrow a soft brush, the sort a lady uses for face powder?" "Yes," the maid replied readily, fetching one while Liam waited. Possessing the brush, he returned to his uncle's bookshop with the herbalist guide, the map, and his jar of invaluable pollen. Tomorrow, he would face the king once more. By the following day, news of Liam's return had permeated the city. The bold young servant, previously unnoticed, was now an object of intense curiosity. At the king's command, Liam was granted the first audience of the day, as the majestic, carved double doors to the throne room swung inward. He inhaled deeply, straightened his shoulders, and fought to quell the rising tide of doubt. He walked towards the king, seated with Princess Anya at his side. The room felt unusually crowded. The entire court seemed to have convened to witness this spectacle. Bowing low, Liam began. "Your Majesty, I have returned with what I believe will cure your pain," he announced clearly, "but it requires no special shoe." The king regarded him skeptically. Liam continued, producing the jar and brush from his coat. "If you would permit me access to the shoe you currently wear, I shall demonstrate," he proposed. The request was highly irregular, a commoner handling the king's footwear. Yet, after a moment's hesitation, the king nodded his assent. A servant knelt and removed the silk shoe. With a respectful dip of his head, Liam took the king's shoe, carefully uncapped the jar, and, using the borrowed brush, lightly dusted the interior with pollen, mimicking the cordwainer's actions he'd observed from beneath the bed. The application complete, the moment of truth arrived. Liam returned the shoe to the servant, who gently eased it back onto the king's foot. Liam risked a glance at Anya. Her eyes were wide, her breath held captive. The king stood. He flexed his ankle. He took a tentative step, then another, firmer one. He hopped lightly. A broad grin illuminated his face, and suddenly he was dancing, arms waving joyfully above his head. The throne room erupted in astonished chatter, 100 nobles witnessing the most extraordinary event in recent memory. But Liam's focus narrowed to one person. Shyly, he met Anya's gaze. To his profound relief, she returned his look with a radiant smile. Though all attention remained on the jubilant king, these two knew, in that instant, their own story had just begun. And so King Valerius was restored to his former self. The lost slipper, now understood to hold no inherent magic, became irrelevant. He commissioned an entire wardrobe of slippers in vibrant hues, each ready to receive its dusting of curative pollen. Festivities and celebrations filled the calendar once more. Yet the grandest, most joyous occasion of all was the wedding of Princess Anya and Liam. The pair became inseparable, often seen strolling the palace gardens even before their union, lost in animated conversation. Together, they founded an extensive library within the palace, generously stocked, of course, by Liam's delighted uncle. It boasted comfortable armchairs, towering rolling ladders, and broad tables displaying large atlases, for Anya and Liam agreed they both still had much reading ahead of them. The king rarely frequented the library, but his happiness had returned, mirroring the contentment of the citizens in the glittering city by the river, with Anya and Liam destined to rule. The people of Viridia knew their future promised a continued blend of merriment, prosperity, and sound common sense. Tonight's journey commences here, nestled within the sanctuary of your own bed. Perhaps hours earlier, your thoughts wandered through the sun-drenched galleries of Italian Renaissance art, lingering, captivated, before one particular vision, Alessandro's Primavera, a masterpiece breathed onto wood with tempera pigments sometime between the waning 1470s and the dawn of the 1480s. Imagine its sheer presence, a canvas stretching nearly 7 feet high and 10 feet wide, a portal crafted by Alessandro di Mariano Filippi, a Florentine luminary during the Renaissance's zenith. Summoned by papal decree to adorn Rome's Sistine Chapel, he later pivoted, pouring his genius into mythological narratives. Centuries hence, it is these very works, including the ethereal Birth of Venus, and this Primavera, that echo his name most profoundly. Primavera, especially, resonates, a symphony of symbols drawn from nature's lexicon and ancient lore. This vibrant tableau of spring, luminous in your mind's eye, accompanies you now towards slumber's threshold, as consciousness softens, drifting in that hazy interlude between wakefulness and sleep. The edges of reality blur. Before you materializes the Primavera, ensconced in a sumptuous gilded frame, hanging solitary within an exquisitely adorned chamber. You find yourself drawn forward, compelled towards a closer communion. The painting looms vast, its inhabitants rendered life-sized, immediate. Proximity sharpens your focus, your gaze inevitably finding Lyra, the serene goddess anchoring the composition's heart. Lyra, deity of love, of beauty's bloom, of fertile promise and flourishing grace. Though 8 other figures share her sylvan stage, she commands an uninterrupted vista, a still point in the turning world. Her hair cascades in waves of spun gold. Her generous form is draped in regal sapphire blue and a cloak of deepest crimson. She is beauty incarnate. You behold her, and impossibly, her painted eyes seem to meet yours, acknowledging your presence. Observe her right hand, subtly lifted, an invitation whispered across the centuries. You hesitate, a flicker of doubt. Did imagination conjure that motion? But then, the gesture repeats, clearer this time, accompanied by the ghost of a wink. Another step you take, closer still, and the very pigment and texture of the artwork seem to dissolve, breathing, pulsating, quickening into life before you. Lyra extends her hand, a tangible offering, and with gentle insistence pulls you across the threshold, into the heart of the painted world. You stand now within a meadow luxuriant beyond imagining, an effusion of blossoms unfurling in every direction. Hundreds of distinct floral varieties carpet the earth, Familiar pinks, reds, yellows, whites mingle with blooms utterly alien to your experience. Lyra smiles, a benevolent guide, gesturing for you to absorb the intricate beauty surrounding you. Delicate flowers push insistently through the verdant grass, studding the foreground with brilliant points of color. The air itself is thick with the unmistakable perfume of spring's awakening. Rose and jasmine interlace with lavender, violet, and lily, a heady, intoxicating blend. Sunlight, warm and undiluted, bathes the scene. The sky above is a flawless azure expanse. If ever an archetype of spring existed, surely this is its perfect embodiment. Closing your eyes momentarily, you allow the sheer loveliness of this place to saturate your senses, drawing in a slow, deep, calming breath, releasing it fully. Opening your eyes again, your attention shifts to the figures arrayed before you, characters whose identities and the intertwined narrative you recall. Commissioned, it's widely held by the illustrious sovereign house as a wedding endowment for Aurelian, a young scion of the dynasty. This powerful banking family, a political force shaping 15th century Florence, saw Primavera eventually grace the couple's bedchamber, a constant allegory presiding over their union. It speaks of spring, of life's cyclical renewal, a paean to marriage, fecundity, and profound change. An allegory, an image laden with symbolic figures and objects, demanding decipherment to unveil its deeper moral truths. Now, immersed within the scene itself, you feel an intuitive grasp of its layered story. You remember Alessandro, the artist whose deft portraiture secured the patronage of the formidable sovereign house, a master weaver of mythological threads, drawing inspiration from classical texts and statuary as much as from the Renaissance pursuit of idealized human form. Whispers persisted of his adoration for a local maiden, blessed with tumbling golden curls and elegant contours, suggesting she became the muse. Her likeness refracted across the painting's female figures. You perceive it now. The graceful femininity animating the composition, lending it an almost audible rhythm. Save for Lyra, whose gaze remains steadfastly outward, all other figures exist in arrested motion, a testament to Alessandro's extraordinary skill in capturing the human physique from myriad perspectives. While the foreground bursts with light and burgeoning life, the backdrop recedes into deeper, cooler tones. Beyond the assembly lies a grove dense with orange trees, interwoven with laurel, myrtle, and other verdure. You know many plants depicted carry specific weight. Oranges, an emblem of the sovereign house itself. Laurel, signifying victory, its Italian name echoing Aurelian's. Botanists, remarkably, have catalogued over 500 distinct species of flora within this single artwork. Wandering towards the orange grove, a cool zephyr greets you, bearing the delightful fragrance of fresh citrus. As the breeze stirs the leaves, your gaze lifts to the far right, witnessing Favonius descending. He is the west wind, spring's herald, emerging from the arboreal shadows to claim the nymph Melantha. She appears, clad in a gossamer gown, a vine flowering impossibly from her lips. In Favonius's embrace, a metamorphosis occurs. Melantha dissolves, reforming as Anthea, goddess of blossoms, spring personified. Anthea stands now between her former self and Lyra, resplendent in a flowing dress embroidered with floral motifs. She gathers roses into the folds of her gown, scattering them onto the grass below. Each handful drifts, petals billowing softly before settling upon the earth. An offering symbolizing both springtime's arrival and the promise of new life. A coronet and necklace woven from flowers adorn her. Her sleeves, astonishingly, seem crafted from dragonfly wings, golden scales shimmering on her forearms, decorative plumes fanning where gilded wings meet the silken fabric above. The intricacy, the sheer artistry manifest in Anthea's attire leaves you breathless. Now, consider the triad on the painting's right flank as a single narrative unit. Favonius, Melantha, Anthea. Together, they embody spring's inception. You draw another profound breath, exhaling slowly, contemplating the symbolism inherent in this nascent season, the burgeoning flowers, the figure's transformation. It is a vivid portrayal of growth, of becoming. Witnessing it intimately, you truly appreciate the rich, complex tapestry of symbols and allegories woven into this masterpiece. The Renaissance was an epoch of extraordinary artistic confluence, where painting, literature, and philosophy intertwined seamlessly. It heralded a return to perceived classical ideals, seeking beauty in all things, while championing humanism alongside, sometimes even above, divinity. The sovereign house, prodigious patrons, famously commissioned works steeped in pagan mythology, rather than solely religious themes, exemplified by Primavera's central figure, Lyra. Lyra occupies the composition's midpoint, positioned slightly deeper and higher than the foreground figures. Her primacy is undeniable, her direct outward gaze engaging the viewer instantly. Behind her, the trees part, creating an archway reminiscent of a halo or an arboreal apse. Architectural framing, typically reserved in religious art for the Virgin Mary, who, like Lyra here, is often depicted in robes of red and blue. This interplay of Christian and pagan iconography is a hallmark of the Renaissance. Within this painting, Lyra stands as a symbol of love, beauty, and the sanctity of marriage, while Anthea represents emergent love, potential, and early spring. Lyra embodies motherhood, the season's full, nurturing culmination. Hovering above Lyra is her son Eros, a winged cherub, blindfolded. In classical myth, Eros governs desire, attraction, affection. His arrow is drawn, aimed pointedly at Euphrosyne, one of the three charities to the left. The blindfold serves as a visual reminder of the ancient maxim, love is blind. Just left of Lyra and Eros dance the three charities, Aglaia, beauty, Euphrosyne, mirth, chastity, and Thalia, bloom, love. Each wears diaphanous, flowing garments that reveal their elegant forms. Their fingers link at three distinct points as they move in a graceful circle, a composition suggesting continuity, rhythm, harmony. It also brilliantly showcases Alessandro's artistry, depicting the sisters from three different viewpoints, evoking sculpture yet imbued with undeniable fluidity and grace. The charities were a familiar motif from contemporary literature. Viewers of Primavera would have recognized their story. From right to left, Aglaia, the most ornately adorned, wears a pearl crown symbolizing purity and an elegant golden pendant. Her glance directed back towards Favonius. In the center, Euphrosyne, unadorned by jewels, gazes towards the god Hermes. On the left is Thalia. Together, they represent classical feminine virtues and the evolving stages of love. Gazing upon them, you feel a profound sense of harmony, a visual music. It fascinates you how these three distinct figures coalesce into a unified, symbolic entity. Indeed, Primavera itself seems a profound meditation on the manifold representations of beauty and femininity. So much transpires within this single scene, yet beauty and vitality remain the clear, overarching currents. The figure positioned furthest left is the god Hermes. His posture echoes Michelangelo's famed David. Hermes is attired in winged sandals, a crimson cloak, a helmet, and carries a sword. His right arm reaches skyward, gently dispersing gathering clouds with his caduceus, ensuring the eternal spring reigns unchallenged. His gaze is directed upwards, towards the heavens, detached from the other figures. In Roman mythology, Mercury, Hermes' counterpart, served as divine messenger, also presiding over medicine, commerce, abundance, and prosperity. Here, Hermes is interpreted as symbolizing the young Aurelian, perhaps even modeled after him. Correspondingly, Antheia is thought to represent Aurelian's bride-to-be. Together, the three charities and Hermes signify the fullness of late spring. Having contemplated each figure, each layer of symbolism, you take a step back, closing your eyes once more. Awe washes over you. Awe at the beauty unfolding all around. Awe at this singular chance to step inside a celebrated work of art, to witness its vibrant life. The commingled scents of rose, lily, and countless other blossoms are intoxicating, inspiring. The sheer abundance of flowers and fruit, the impossibly green grass, the dense foliage, all conjure a veritable paradise. A gentle breeze caresses your skin. You realize Antheia has just scattered another handful of petals near your feet. Delicate pink rose petals now blanket the earth around you. Above, Hermes nudges another wisp of cloud aside, guaranteeing the sun's unobstructed blessing upon the scene. You watch the three charities twirl in harmonious rhythm, their steps light upon the petal-strewn ground, silken gowns and golden hair catching the breeze. Eros hovers patiently, arrow nocked, while Euphrosyne dances on, blissfully unaware. The air carries a complex perfume. Orange blossom, fresh-cut grass, sweet florals, and the spicy tang of laurel. It is all exquisitely beautiful, dreamlike. Your eyes meet Lyra's one last time. You offer a silent thanks for her welcome into this vibrant realm. A profound appreciation settles within you for the intricate messages conveyed through this masterfully orchestrated narrative. The weaving of symbols from literature, philosophy, antiquity, the contemplation of beauty in its diverse manifestations, love's transformative power, the subtle nods to the powerful patrons, the incandescent use of color, the expertly balanced composition. You appreciate the profound transitions depicted. Winter yielding to spring, maiden becoming bride, becoming mother, pagan Venus echoing Christian Mary, literature rendered into visual poetry. The metamorphoses throughout the painting pulse with spring's irrepressible energy, new life, burgeoning potential, growth, transformation, sheer beauty. This is the season of rebirth, yearned for through long winter nights, finally manifest here in its absolute glory. Such depth resides within this single canvas. Small wonder it remains revered as a crowning achievement of the entire Renaissance. You sit for a quiet moment, allowing these reflections to settle. integrating into mind and heart. A wish surfaces to linger here indefinitely, inhabiting this perfect spring day, forever witnessing beauty and love dance before you. Lyra seems to catch your thought, her gaze conveying reassurance. You may return whenever you wish. You are welcome here. This sanctuary can always be revisited in your mind's eye. Thanking her silently for this grace, you decide to remain just a little longer. Finding a pleasant spot, you lie back upon the grassy meadow, enveloped by the sweet fragrance of living flowers. The grass yields softly beneath you. The sun bestows its gentle warmth upon your skin. Your body surrenders to the earth's embrace, relaxing deeply. And Thea tosses another cascade of roses nearby as you ease further into rest. With each breath, tension dissolves, melting away. You feel utterly safe here, welcomed, inspired. It is time now for sleep, for rejuvenation, time to rest within the most beautiful celestial spring garden imaginable. The dreamy images coalescing in your mind are serene, peaceful, as you drift finally, completely into sleep. Good night.